Welcome to Oh Brother, a podcast of three brothers trying to figure it all out, with your hosts Brandon, Colin, and Aaron. On this week's show, transference is real. Hello.
Hello.
What's going on?
Not a lot. It just loaded, and so I was like, oh, someone's already talking. Surprise.
Hello.
All right. So how much snow do you have? That's the real question.
You know, we didn't get hardly any, which is so...
Oh, man, we got it all this time.
Really?
Oh, Lordy. Oh, man, it's everywhere. Yeah.
Oh,
And it really has only been, so it's like snowed on and off all day, but
Yeah.
like just a little tiny bit of snow, right? Like a little bit, like little tiny flurries, not doing anything. And then like this morning, it snowed quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it was like big, heavy, thick snow, but it didn't last very long. And all day, randomly, it's just been like little teeny tiny snowflakes, little teeny tiny snowflakes.
Oh, no.
We got home at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and it's like, blam, now here's the real. It's like, holy cow. It's still snowing. So like,
Seriously?
yeah.
Dang.
I don't know. I think it's let up a little bit, but earlier when I looked outside, it was still very snowy. So Adventure Dog has decided that today is not the day for adventuring. He still doesn't like snow, turns out. But
surely not. Poor guy.
he was like, it's not the snow, it's the wind. I think it's so. Today's it's like 20 plus mile an hour winds like all day.
Yeah, not good.
Right. So he was like, no, I don't think so. But like, I don't know exactly what his deal is currently, but like, maybe it's a combination of the medicine and the new food or whatever. But like,
Yeah.
ever since we got back from Dad's house, he's like, we're just gonna keep walking now.
Oh,
so
invigorated.
Yeah,
ready.
He after school, he's been going on like way long walks, like way longer with Susan and stuff. So he's been going all over the place. He's like, let's go over here. What about over here now? He's all about it. So this week's he's been doing great. Like running around, not running, but like
Sure.
walking slightly faster. Like he did run a little bit the other day, but that was because like it was our walk right before supper. And on the way back, he was like, let's go faster though, because
I know
there's supper in there.
I know what meets me when I am ready, right?
Yeah, he's been going down like up to that like Herb Depot building. It's like up the road from us. He's been like going up there.
Dang.
Yeah. There's
check.
like that field back there. So he's been like, they've been going into the field a little bit, like right next to it. Not the one, like a little, like the yard next to that building. Because there's a field there, but it's like all harvested. So it's like all sticky and stuff, you know. He's been going out there, hanging out, wandering around in the grass up there, sniffing around in the fence stuff. Crazy. What the heck? Who is this dog? I don't know. So we've been referring to him as the Adventure Dog this week. So he's been till the snow. He's like, not that adventurous.
Actually, I changed my mind.
Yeah. He's like, okay, my adventuring only goes so far, and now I'm done.
Oh. Well, that's good.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I'm impressed. I'm proud of him. I'm happy that he's been getting around a little better. So
yeah,
this is good news. Just letting him go and do his thing. So maybe the walking will help him, keep his old legs working, right? Like,
gotta keep moving. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. So that's good. That's my excitement. What's up?
Oh. I like that excitement for sure.
It's good. Adventure Dog excitement. Da, 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 da.
Speaking of adventures, Aaron, how are you?
I am on the tired side.
I was gonna say, Mr. Drive all over Oklahoma.
Just creepy.
Yeah, yesterday was tedious. Of just having to drive literally the entire length of my county and into other counties, trying to track down people. I just need you guys to sign these forms, please. Stay in one place. And then today, I initiated 3 different investigations, which on a normal day you do like an investigation.
Right.
So that seems high. Yeah.
So the deal is Tulsa County's been slammed. Us County,
yeah,
hasn't been quote unquote as busy. So to help compensate, we get some of Tulsa's cases. Yeah, so
yuck.
I was like in like way southwestern Tulsa, and I was like, "Oh, I've never been here before. Hello."
Oh dear.
And so, yeah, so I did 3 separate cases today.
Yeah.
And then I got home at like I think it was like dead at like 5:00. Like just boom, right on the money. Walked through the door. But no, I was out and about at like 9. Just I staffed with my supervisor, and then I was just gone. So that's what Aaron did today. I cannot tell you what I've done the past week. As far as like work goes, we had dinner with Shelby's mom. What did I do today? This past week. Looking around my office. Did I do anything? No, over there. No. Did I do that? No. Well, that's kind of been. That's been watching a lot of My Hero Academia on Hulu.
Oh,
it is one of my and Shelby's new favorite shows. That it's very hard to watch like after like on a work day because we can sit and watch like a whole season. But it's like, whoa, it's 11:00. We should probably stop.
Well, luckily there's like 12 million episodes of that you can watch.
Yes. So we've been doing that. And another kind of thing that I've weirdly started to enjoy is what it during this time after college football ends, there's like a whole big explosion of inquiries and conundrums of college football coaches of who's going to go where, and it's a new favorite like pastime of mine, so I can actually like
watching the shuffle, right?
Yeah, like it's so weird because like getting in like people analyzing things and like, oh, I wouldn't have picked him to go there, and like, oh, that's very strange. He went there, that's crazy. It's a whole like unique, and I the past several years I've watched the college football carousel and coaches going into the NFL or coaches being moved around in college football or just like college sports in general. Big name hires, people I've never heard of before. It's truly fascinating of just seeing how that world transpires, like how like it is like on a daily basis that people like us plebeians don't see. But I've been transfixed the past like week or two on teams I don't even care about. Of people like, oh, that person's going there. Oh, I need to look him up. Oh, this is this. Oh, that's crazy. So that's been my last 2 weeks of watching My Hero Academia and watching coaches be moved back and forth to places all over the world. So that's been my enjoyment for the last week.
Well, it's a whole like another layer of the landscape, right? Because it's like because there's the one layer of, especially with college sports, like, oh, who is going to sign with what school, like what high school player is going to go there. What is that team doing around there? But then, like you said, then there's this whole other level of, well, who's the coach going to be? Because like that makes a big difference at the collegiate level, right? The coach makes a big difference because those are people still learning the sport, still developing like athletically. So the coach is a big deal. Now, is the coach a big enough deal to be the highest paid public position in literally every state in the U.S.? No, I don't. I disagree.
Yes, Mike Gundy is a deity. You cannot change our mind. He is a demigod.
I like some perspective here. I think this last year has put in perspective for some more people, not everybody, obviously, but like, you know, I can live my life without a sport in it. Like, it doesn't really affect my daily life whether or not basketball is happening. Sorry, LeBron, I don't care about you. There you go, hot take. But like, literally don't care. Like, I don't. It doesn't matter to me if you play or not. I have to do my own thing, and I have to worry about my own stuff. I don't care what you're doing. Just like he doesn't care about me. He never even heard of me before. So like, why would he care about me? It's the same thing, right? So like, there's that. But just for the fan aspect, like, it's interesting when you think about, because I don't like to watch college football as like, I'm only gonna watch this one team play football. Right? It's not very interesting to do that, in my opinion. Like, I don't like that. I like, again, because I'm like a macro level guy, right? Like, I like the big overall landscape of things. So like, yeah, I kind of agree that stuff is mildly interesting because I like to see the whole landscape of like the whole thing. Right. And how it works and how it plays out, which is why the playoff has been marginally more interesting than the old like BCS, like, we're gonna arbitrarily rank you number 2. Like, what why would you like
because we can,
because you have to now consider like a whole huge landscape of like way more teams, a much more intricate dynamics of stuff. So yeah, on that level it is more interesting. So I can see that. I can see why you're fascinated by that.
It's so like in some programs, like, you know, University of Arkansas, which we can all agree hasn't been, you know, good in quite some time.
Ever?
If you're an Arkansas Razorbacks fan, and Darren McFadden, you know, that era, you know.
Yeah. Do we need to talk about how long ago Darren McFadden played for Arkansas? That was a long time ago. That was like 2009.
But like, so last, yeah,
it was.
I remember. Oh, who was it? Kyle Reuter. He texted me one day because he went to Arkansas, and he's like, "Dude, this weird guy's in my class." I'm like, "Huh?" And then like a while later, he's like, "Dude, it's Darren McFadden. He's totally in my science class." I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" But like last year, after Arkansas had a kind of an abysmal season, they hired like some, like, he's not really a no-name coach. I never really heard of him. A guy by the name of Sam Pittman, and you know, everyone was just kind of like it's okay hire, but like, I mean, he's, you know, hasn't turned the program around, like, competing for like the national title or anything. But it's now one of those programs that's more respectable. It, you know, produces, you know, good players, you know, at a competitive look, and it kind of feels like, you know, the oh my gosh, did I forget his name? Bill Snyder at K-State, like. You know, he was, you know, the people in, you know, all the sports world who are like, oh, you know, it's not really like a sexy hire or anything, but you know, it's a good hire. And so it's just like, people, you know, it's like, oh, you know, they're not going to really compete for the national championship, but to a lot of people, they're not really in it for that. It's literally to develop good players and good people to get to the next level or whatever. And to me, that's interesting because a lot of people are like, oh, we got to win a national championship.
It doesn't matter because guess who's going to win the national championship next year? Oh, it's Alabama. There we go. Done. Surprise.
So like it's just one of the things that it is fascinating to see. So I've just been caught up with that for the past like week or two of just like, and then seeing people's reactions like, oh my gosh, can you believe who they hired? I'm like, no, I had no idea who that is. Like, really?
True. Yeah.
So to me, it's that aspect of it of how like just a complete utter new world it is that like, oh, these coaches are being paid how much and
it's disgusting.
Yeah, so that's just been my little fork this week of like, oh, what is he doing? Huh? What? So
that's pretty cool though. But I will say that I do like that macro level and like the dynamic stuff, but I found the last several years I've just been watching like isolated games, like reverting because like every year they just only ever talk about the same 5 teams. And so it becomes, at a certain point, it becomes rather uninteresting. Like, oh no, which of these same 3 teams are going to play again? Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, that's boring, right? Like, it's to me, like, if it's just the same people competing for the top level and winning all the time, it's not interesting anymore. Like, why would I want to watch this team? Basically, like when I heard that it was going to be Ohio State, Alabama, and I was like, Alabama's going to win. So why would I even watch it? Like, it's not even worth it. Like, at a certain point, when you like know too much about it, you're like, okay, well, that's boring. Because it is the same, like, consistently. Now, that's good for those programs. I get it, right? That means they're doing good things and they're doing stuff. But, like, it also tells me that the disparity across the collegiate landscape is vast, right? And so, like, it's not interesting when it's just the same 4 or 5 teams every year in the top 5 spots every time. And, like, almost always the same one wins. Like, wow. Why? I mean, it's good if you're an Alabama fan, I guess. If you live in Alabama, you're just like, this is the greatest decade of my life. But like, for me, as like just a sports fan who likes to see differing outcomes, like it's just really boring. It's like when the Yankees used to win like every single year in baseball. Like,
yeah,
who cares? It's boring. I need some like dynamic or drama at my sport, and like, oh look, it's this same team won again. Cool.
Well, I guess we never really like. Well, I say we. I guess I don't know if I'm more of the sports fan out of the family, but like we never like grew up like in a true like Missouri is like a powerhouse in sports or anything, but like we didn't really grow up in an area that was like diehard Cardinals or.
I mean,
whatever.
Everywhere in Missouri is diehard Cardinals except for Kansas City, right? That's how it is. But again, for a long time, the Cardinals kind of like not good, right?
Yeah.
Only like what they won that one. I was like 18 or 19 when they won again, and then after that one, they started becoming much more relevant for a few years, right?
Yeah.
Other than it was like, oh, Mark McGuire win. I was like, okay, who cares? But like,
yeah, that's the big one. This is actually a topic that I have written down on our topic list.
Ooh.
Is it?
Sports.
Go on.
The topic that I wrote down actually is just
sports
or nah.
So I guess it kind of depends, right? Like on what you mean by sports, like because. Like, do I want to play sports? No, absolutely do not. Like, I don't have that, like, innate drive to, like, win. I don't care. And whatever. Like, you lost. Okay, fine. That's fine. And whatever. Like, so, like, I don't know. I would say that I'm like a competitive person, kind of, but like if I lose, that's fine. It doesn't matter. But like there are some sports that I enjoy watching, I guess. But like I don't know if I would consider myself like a traditional sports. Like I don't paint my face.
You don't,
right? I don't do that. Not like somebody else in this group conversation currently.
No,
would that be? Weird.
Oh, listeners don't listen to him. Oh.
I've seen the pictures. It's okay. It's all right. I think I saw you on TV once, but I can't be sure. Everybody had orange faces, so
yeah.
Oh.
When everybody has an orange face, does anybody have an orange face? I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
Maybe.
And like, I am also, I don't know. I don't like to watch live sports generally because I also find them very boring, especially professional sports live. Yawn. It's like every 5 seconds, they're like, and commercial break, and everyone just like stands there, like, what? Why? This stinks, man. So I liked watching live sports when I knew people playing in like high school and college, and then after that, I was like, I'm okay. I don't like that environment. It's not like I'm going to be really loud and scream all the time. Like,
yeah,
no, I don't want to do that. That's not like how I watch things, because I think I watch things like more like I watch them for the I don't know what word to describe it. The technical aspect of the sport that I'm watching. I appreciate that a lot. You know? And so that's the part I want to see. And so like screaming and yelling and carrying on is not really what I do. Unless, of course, I'm at like high school or like the middle school basketball games that I go watch. I like hoop it up for the kids because they like it. And all the rest of the parents are just sitting there like, you suck. The ref's garbage. So I try to interject some positivity into the atmosphere.
Very loudly.
Like, that was awesome. Yeah. And all the parents are like, that ref's trash. What do you do? Like screaming at their kid. They're playing basketball wrong. You're like, they're 12. Stop it. Of course they're playing basketball wrong. Like,
of course. It's kind of this whole process. They're learning.
Yeah. So like that's the encouraging side of my fandom comes out. And like start screaming like, way to go, get up, like that kind of comes out of me in that time because I feel like I need to overpower them, and I can because I'm so loud. But like,
what? I kind of can't help it.
Yeah, I like to watch like the technical aspect of it, right? And I think that is like that part is not as fun for me in a live environment because everyone's just like screaming, spilling beer on things, and I'm like, boring. So. That's kind of where I stand. And then we can talk about what sports we like, I guess, after this. But what are your thoughts, Aaron?
Well, I'm probably not the best person to ask this since I was a coach.
No, you're the perfect person because we're allowed to have different opinions.
So trying to get, and also trying to be a coach, literally. That's what I was talking about last week is I literally applied to be a coach and a teacher again. So
nice.
Like to me, so in high school, I don't know if you know this, I wasn't the best at sports. Like, I was in them, and I did all the things. Like, I was in football, baseball, all that stuff. But, like, I just wasn't, like, good. And for the longest time, I didn't really have, like, especially in high school, I did not have, like, what people call like the athletic mentality of this is my sport, this is my thing, I'm going to do this. But like coaching has definitely brought a new perspective in sports to me because like when I was younger, in high school I hated going to basketball, hated them. I didn't loathe them. I just hated having to go to a basketball event and sitting there in a school basketball. So to me, basketball is not fun. Now, again, with Brandon, like when I was a teacher, like going to like granted, fifth grade basketball is terrible, but
yes, it is.
Going to and being there for my kids, like, oh heck yeah, this is really really fun. But like, if you ask me, hey, do I want to go to a high school game? I'm like, no, I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah. Again, I only wanted to go to high school games when I was in high school and like knew everybody, because it was like a social thing. It was fun. But, like, I don't want to watch another high school. I was bored.
Like I love doing like jazz band, like especially in college, like jazz or pep band was amazing. Like that was the thing to be in. And so like some sports for me, like I could, if you said, hey, do you want to go to like a sports bar and just like watch sports? I'm like, oh, I could do that. I'm also very weird. Like sometimes I'll just like go and watch like a game and then I'll be like, okay, I'm done, and I just like leave. So sports to me is like something that is used, especially for a small town, for kids to have an outlet to find a way to get out of that small town, to go and make something to kind of that escape. And so that's what we use a lot, especially coaching at a small town, and seeing that aspect of life of, oh hey, I'm literally have no other option of to get out of town than to coach or to play. So but like if you offered me tickets to go to like a professional basketball game, I'll be like, this is gross, I'm okay. I've been to college football games. The only exception to my deep ugh for basketball would be going to Oklahoma State basketball games. I don't know if it's just something about the arena or what it is of just being so different. But like, if you're like, hey, let's go watch, the Oklahoma City Thunder, like, okay. I'm the kind of person that can go and sit and watch a professional baseball game. That's what I coached. I loved it.
I could not sit still that long at all. No way.
Professional, like NFL game, heck yeah, I could sit there and watch hours. Like a college baseball, like we could, like Shelby and myself went to an OU baseball game like last year, and just because the tickets were cheap, but we also have like the Tulsa Drillers, the semi-professional team here, which are like really fun to watch, weirdly. So for me, being a former varsity athlete, I can tell you, but it was an experience. Would I do it again in high school? Absolutely. But I am much more comfortable in the coaching aspect of like, ooh, that looks hard. I'm just gonna sit here and watch. So yeah. So that's my my kick.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say that I think it makes sense that you, even though you like poo-pooed my high school basketball thing, like it makes sense that you have that you want to watch Oklahoma State basketball because you have a connection to Oklahoma State. You went there, right? So it's like a thing. It's like a whole thing. Like, you're like more familiar with like that specific like culture of it, because again, college sports are weird, and like every single one has a unique cultural aspect about that campus, right? Because you were immersed in that for a long time and you were familiar with it. It's kind of like it has a familiarity that's like, yeah.
There's also a weird like aspect of that kind of fandom, because I don't know if it was just growing up in Missouri. Like I've seen how Mizzou fans are, and I don't know if it's just the kids I went to school with.
Not pleasant.
But like,
right. That's how it is.
but to me, like I've seen like the over diehard, like we're Mizzou fans, we're always gonna win. I'm like, you need to chill like a little bit.
Completely unfounded confidence.
But so a lot of that, like the super like hardcore, like I bleed crimson and cream, or a lot of OU fans that I know.
Yeah, it's odd.
So But like to me, like I love wearing Oklahoma State because I graduated there. But as being as like
You love
someone comes up to if someone comes up to me and they're like, Oklahoma State sucks. I'm like, cool, have a good day. Like I'm not like a super diehard fan, but because I've seen those people, I've been to Bedlam, which is an experience in itself. Going to the OU OU OSU game like for football is just an incredible experience. I've been to that. I've seen people like scream at each other like in the parking lot. Like, guys, the game hasn't even started yet. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm a little tired, so like I don't really want to deal with this right now. But so like I said, the diehard fans that I've seen is just different breed, and a lot of that kind of turned me off from sports initially, and then I went to Oklahoma State, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's some people that aren't like absolutely crazy. Okay, I can deal with this. So,
yeah, that's true. I was once at especially like with the unfounded like swagger, right? Like I was at a game one time, and it was at a hockey game, right? And it was like the St. Louis.
That's a different field entirely. Like
more on that later when we get back to what sports we like to watch. But like we went to St. Louis to watch the Blues play the Red Wings because the Red Wings were my favorite hockey team for a long time.
Yeah,
and the Wings lost, and but it's a mid-season game, no one cares. And so I was like, it was fun to watch, And some dude was like, "Yeah, take that, Wings, you're terrible." And I was like, the Blues have literally never won anything at this point in history. It was like a few years later they won something, but like at this point in time, they had won nothing ever in the history of ever. And he was all like, "Yeah, we're the best." Like, dude, calm down. Stop.
It definitely was a completely different environment. So I went to Northeastern Oklahoma A&M, who at the time was not good in anything, baseball and volleyball, I think, maybe. My first year there for college, like being in band, 1-9, maybe ish, like in football. But
my sophomore year, Logan Rogersville High School. Boom, there it was.
But the atmosphere that the band created, it always made it feel like it was such like a close game, even though we got blown out like 60-0. But a lot of those things were always just fun to experience. And then when going to Oklahoma State, we weren't like, gonna make, the year before I went to OSU, 2011, 2012, when they were literally like making a run for the national championship, like that's different. But being like, oh yeah, we'll win some games. But yeah, the whole atmosphere at NEO did not prepare me for the athletic atmosphere at Oklahoma State.
Wait, that is quite a different level, right? Like,
yeah, but yeah, I just remember how like unique it was. Like, oh, this is what we're doing. Okay,
I mean nobody at NEO was like screaming, "I'm a man, I'm 40, talk to me."
Yeah, that's Gundy. Also, the coach who pulled off a mullet for a few years.
No, nobody pulls off a mullet. I'm telling you right now. Go on a record. Stop it. No. Whoever told you mullets were cool lied to you. No. That's what. No. Anyway.
But yeah, so like that transition of going from Logan Rogersville. So when I was a senior, being good in football, being good in basketball, I'm like, oh yeah, man, this is awesome. But then to NEO, and like, oh, we're terrible at everything. Okay, and so that was a different experience. Men's basketball at NEO was also really fun, just being in the pep band, because we were set up like right behind the opposing team's bench, and so it was just mostly just like screaming at them the whole time. So that was fun. But like, I've seen, I remember when I was a bartender and a bouncer at Eskimo Joe's, and it was Bedlam, and these two guys just like in the little entryway, just started getting into it. Like, oh, you sucks. Like, no, Oklahoma State sucks. And guys, it's 1:00. The game doesn't start till 6. We're fine. And I literally broke them up. I was like, I mean, can we all agree Texas sucks? And they're like, yeah, you right. And then they just like went on their way. And so that
common ground. There we go.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, Texas does suck. You're right. And it's like, what are you doing? So I remember that as being an experience. And they're like,
really funny.
These are people who aren't afraid to fight in like a parking lot at like their kids' like, you know, JV football game like that. Like, this is a hardcore sporting event. And then Shelby says hi, by the way.
Hi, Shelby.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. And so it was just like, decision-wise, was it a good idea to go to Oklahoma State? Probably not. But it was still like a fun, unique experience. Now, I have a friend that went to the University of Alabama, and that's an entirely different breed of human beings. My friend Colin and Merv, if you're listening to this, love you. But you're different animals down there.
Yeah.
In a good way. But yeah, it's unique talking with someone, especially from the SEC, to like, you know, the Big 12, aka, you know, me. Like, oh, Oklahoma State's really good at football. Yeah, have you won a national championship? 1943. So, I don't know.
Counts. It counts. It's on the wall.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like to me, like if you say Shelby's brother Riley, we literally drove up to Missouri, watched Missouri State football's homecoming with what is his face? We talked about him on the podcast. He used to be coach at the University of Arkansas and Louisville. Bobby Petrino, good old Bobby. He's coaching at Missouri State. We went up there and watched him, and then we drove back. You know, it's on. Shelby and myself have a list that we want to go to. All of the, you know, baseball baseball stadiums. Which, Colin, when you lived in Dallas, you never took me to a Rangers game. Yeah, all of them.
What?
That's what we want to do.
Oh, like everywhere, all of them?
Yeah,
a lot.
everywhere. Everywhere. No,
lofty goal.
Even the ones in Canada. Yeah.
Why would you?
Why would you go there?
Because the Blue Jays. Blue Jays. But like when Colin lived in Dallas, when Colin lived in Dallas, he said, "Hey, when you come down, tell me research. I'll take you to a game." What did I do? I bought a Texas Rangers hat and a Texas Rangers shirt, and I got all excited, had my little pennant, and this was like a few years ago. So I was in my 20s, so I was driving down.
You were in your 20s 2 weeks ago.
And
those
I was like, we can't go. Okay, cool. I can't go to a Rangers game. Oh, okay. So, but yeah, like, even like I don't like the Dallas Cowboys. I'm a Chiefs fan, but like, if Colin was like, "Let's go to a Dallas game," I would have bought a Cowboys hat and marched my happy self down there just to sit in the stadium and watch a game. It could have been the, you know, Patriots and Cowboys. I don't care. Like football. But if you were like, hey, let's go watch, you know, curling or something. I mean,
heck yeah.
How much
Side note, if you're going to go to every baseball state, apparently your MO is you're going to have a lot of hats by the end of this trip, because this,
okay,
I didn't know it was required to dress the part to go to a game in the stadium.
First of all, feeling really attacked right now. And well, I also made the rule / joke / decree that every college campus I visit, I want a hat of it. And so in my little storage thing over there, I have a hat from almost every college campus I visited, either it be as a student or just passing through, or like when Colin lived in Dallas, I can't remember what road it was, but it took you right by Northern Texas University. And I remember driving down the first time, and I said, I want to have from there. And then I just never swung by. It was one of the greatest regrets of my life. I gotta say, I'm not proud of that moment.
Wow,
North Texas, if you're listening, sorry. But in my heart. What are we talking about? Sorry.
So I think it's Colin's turn to talk for a little while.
Yeah, go Colin.
Sporty boy Colin.
Oh yeah, you know me. It's all the sports. No, I think this question to me, like, we've talked about what it means to be a fan in the past, right? And so
yes,
so for me, I was just like flat out never interested in sports of any kind for any reason ever. Like, it just never hooked me. Didn't matter what it was. And I flash forward to, I respect, like, except for like the Olympics. Like, for some reason, when it was the Olympics and it was much more of a spectacle, it was high density, packed, well edited footage of going jump to jump to jump to jump on the skis and that kind of stuff. But it up until the Olympics, or now I can watch Formula One and some of those sports. So I guess some of these more like global kind of sports, not just so American centric. But growing up, I had no interest in baseball or basketball or football or any of that. It was always very boring to me. And I guess maybe possibly that was because I was never able to connect with it. I don't know. I know many people connect with sports on a lot of different levels. People connect with it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, depending on whatever I'm saying here. But like, there's the like technical aspect of like, oh, what they're able to do is really cool. And then there's like the strategizing around it, where they're able to put in the plays, and like that aspect is interesting to people. Then there's the, like, I want to be able to do that, or I was able to do that. And then there's like the camaraderie, like when a lot of times people go and they sit down when they really mean, I'm going to watch football. It's code for, I'm going to spend time with family, or I'm going to
hang out with my friends or whatever.
Yeah. So there's like all these different aspects of it. And for whatever reason, none of that ever clicked for me around sports. We didn't grow up as in a family of watching sports, unless you were with Mimi and you were watching golf for whatever reason. You were forced to do that.
No, never golf. The one sport more boring to watch than baseball, golf.
They found one, right? Well, okay. You forgot cricket, right? Cricket is in there, unfortunately.
No, I disagree. Mostly because I don't want... Oh, never mind. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay. Well, anyway, it was a joke about cricket being more boring. So everyone knows that.
Our cricket listeners, we're sorry.
So your cricket listeners, chirp, 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 chirp.
Good.
That's the dad joke. So I respect people who play sports, and respect it just kind of like as a thing that exists in the world. But it takes me a lot to get into something. And even something that is like so simple to follow, like Formula One, where there's so few people, right? There's not that many people involved.
Oh, you mean the drivers, not the technical crew of 7 billion.
Right. Exactly. Just drivers, right? Who you're following, the people who are actually out there driving.
There's 20, right?
20.
30 people.
Exactly. And because they were like, well, I don't know. A lot has changed, because I know 2020 saw at least one team drop. Anyway, you're like, there's literally 20 people or less in the entire
I didn't really
world
watch any this year
who are out there racing, and I can't even care enough to keep up with that. And so when I am in awe of the people who sit down and not just sit there and talk about the history of the player of in Mighty Mites. They had, right?
Those are the people that watch with a stat book, right? They sit there and mark little things down.
What? Or,
what are you doing?
Even when I'd sit and try and watch a pro game, and the announcers, granted they have notes on all the players, but they're sports people. They know the history of each player and where they came from and their college lineage and all this stuff. Like, I don't have, I guess, I don't know if it's the care. It's probably not the care. Like, I just don't care about that. Like, it's really hard for me to put that much effort into it. Again, I enjoy it as a thing that exists in the world, and it is what it is. It's just when it comes to like investing time to follow it, it's never been something that I can like jump on board with.
It's fair. I think so to segue off of that, I think one of the things that, like, when people ask me if I like to watch sports, right, in the United States, for our international friends, they mean one of three options. That they mean, do you watch baseball, football, or basketball?
Yeah.
That's what they mean. Right. And I think very quickly, like, I don't know. Once you kind of watch those for a while, at least me, once I watched them for a while, I was like, okay, this is fine. And I started to like look for other things to watch because you kind of get bored with them. Again, this might just be my attention span issue, right? But like, I like to watch sports I've never seen before. Because I love trying to figure out what's going on while I'm watching. It's a way to keep myself actively engaged, right? It's like when I watch baseball, it's just the minutia of baseball is just too much, right? I can't parse like all the 700,000 little tiny details that are supposedly important or something. And I'm just like, why is this on for 5 hours? What is happening in my life? So I just can't do it. So I mean, you mentioned the Olympics. I stinking love the Olympics like so much, just because of the variety of stuff.
Yeah,
it's on there. Like, you can just watch all kinds, and you don't ever see it anywhere else hardly. It's now that's a little bit different with the internet and networks picking up like and specialty things, or
ESPN7 covering the chess players,
or like certain network deals, they just play like certain things or whatever. But like, like streaming is really you can watch that stuff more accessible now. But like when I was younger, like that stuff was like, you when am I ever going to watch fencing? Never. Right now at the Summer Olympics at 1:30 in the afternoon. The only time I'm going to see it for like 5 years. Like, what? So like,
yeah,
I like the Olympics because of the variety. And I like for me, it's really engaging because I always am trying to figure out like, well, what does that rule mean? How did they score a point there? So like Aaron was like making fun of curling. I still love curling. I love to watch it at the Olympics. I love the like weird strategy of it. Like I love how just bizarre it is. I like how like weird it is. Right? I mean that in like a positive way.
Like on TV, like I can absolutely watch it, but if you're like, you want to go like do a curling and like,
well, because on TV you get to see more stuff, right? This is why I like to watch TV, because you can see more angles. But like, yeah, I love it. Like, oh, curling's on. Heck yeah, let's go. Women's USA curling. Heck, that's what I want to watch. Ladies are amazing. It's like, that's what I like it for the variety. So I like the ski jumping. I like to watch the whatever. I like track and field stuff because there's like 800,000 different events you can watch in track and field, and like so I like to watch a lot of like what the traditional American sports fan would consider like weird or like fringe sports. And I always like it when I watch something I've never seen before. Like, what is happening right now? What is going on? This is crazy. Right? It's why I like to watch rugby. It's really interesting. Right? And I really love soccer. I know that's not really a fringe sport anywhere else in the world, but like in the US, it's like whatever, soccer. Soccer is great for two reasons. Number one, it's just like nonstop. Again, this speaks to my attention span. The fact that there's no commercial breaks and I can watch it on TV, like straight shot. It's good. But like that, the dynamics of what's happening there, it's so fluid and things are changing like every second that I like that. Right. I can keep up with that my mind can stay focused on that for a long time. Whereas in like, golf, when a lot of it's just like walking. Yeah,
Staring.
I can't
Don't forget the very intense, looking and thinking.
Yeah, looking. And that's why like I kind of enjoy watching cricket because it's still relatively alien to me, where I'm still watching it with like, what's that mean? What's going on here? What why did they do that? Right? I'm still watching it with those eyes. So I'm still like relatively engaged in the proceedings, So I like that kind of stuff. I also really love to watch like the World Cup soccer. Holy cow. I learned that I can't really drink a lot of coffee and watch World Cup soccer simultaneously because my heart might explode. Like it might. That's like the one thing that I like will shout at my TV about is like big soccer tournament matches. Like I get into that, like men and women, because like the women, it could be the U.S. winning. In the men, no, it's never going to be. Right. I saw an article today, like about rebuilding U.S. men's soccer. It's like the 700th article I've read about this.
Yeah.
And the first line of the article was like, the U.S. soccer team really needs to put a lot of effort in finding a striker. I was like, yeah, they've never had one, like ever. What do you mean this is new plan? Come on.
Well, maybe that's why they've never had a good one. They've never thought to look for a good one because they
never thought one.
Never thought one.
It was like, oh yeah, we'll just find one laying around. But like, I don't know. Well, so I like to watch like weird sports, like that are different. And
so my favorite channel, it's surprisingly at Buffalo Wild Wings. It's called the Alternative Sports Channel. That's where they have things like the log toss, the cheese roll.
Oh, yeah. Like the lumberjack games are so cool. Yeah, I love to watch those. Yeah. I think that's why I also like strong. I have like a weird affinity for strongman.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because it's so like bizarro land where it's like what they're just holding something. Okay. Like that's kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
like, sorry, go ahead. No. I can't remember what I was going to say now. I was going to come up with another example, but I forgot.
Well, no, I think exactly what you said at the beginning there was, when here in the U.S. when we talk about sports, culture is baseball, basketball, and football, and that's probably why I was just so turned off from the beginning because those permeate everywhere and are so ingrained in everything that it was this immediate like reaction pull back against. But anytime the veil was lifted up and you were able to see a little bit like a little tiny glimpse beyond, it was like, well, what's that? Like, what are they doing over there? Like,
yeah. So, which is why I liked hockey a lot when I was younger. I watched a lot of hockey because it was different. It was like, oh, this isn't just baseball or this isn't basketball. It's something exciting and like different, So I like to watch that. And I don't know. I was thinking of other sports that I like to watch on TV when they're on. I'm like, ooh, I'm watching this for sure.
Sure.
Like, I don't know. I'll sit and watch most things, not tennis or golf. Sorry, tennis.
No,
I can't.
The only time I ever liked golf is when Mimi would take us up to like all those tournaments that they had at
Missouri
Island
Sports
Springs.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I liked golf. I like golf when there's like a windmill and like
a hippo.
Like, the bowling pins that jump up and down.
I like going to Highland Park wherever Mimi would like volunteer.
Highland Springs.
But then whenever she would then take us like into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, I didn't know who any of those people were. But it was to me it was still like so fun to go in and like who's this person? And then I think it was also really fascinating to watch Mimi's, how much she loved sports.
Sure.
And that was also another big thing, like especially like when Oklahoma State played Iowa State, which for those of you listening, or our grandma was a huge Iowa State fan, and so how those Cowboys do? Like, well, memes did Iowa State lose by 50? I'm not talking about Iowa State. And so I remember those were always like really fun. Sure. Especially getting those phone calls, especially when, like Oklahoma State lost. I'm like, well, I was looking at the sports channel today. Okay, thanks, meme. I just want to see how you're doing. Memes that Iowa State win. Well, we're not talking about it. Like that's especially now, especially that like I've had that experience of coaching, that I want to get back into coaching. Like seeing, knowing what I know now and like having like a different outlook on sports and how like impactful it can be on people. Like that's another reason kind of why I enjoy it. I'm looking at a little plaque that my seniors from the class of 2019 gave me, and it says Caney Valley Trojans, Coach Funkhauser on it, and I'm just like, and it has like all their signatures ingrained, and there's like a little LED light on it, and I'm like, that is like really cool that like these kids did this and signed it. So it's to me, like looking at it, it's like, oh, it's actually really neat. Thanks, guys. Like it's something that it's very dear to me, and I was able to connect with these kids using athletics, even if they were all little turd baskets. But I love them all the same.
Well, that speaks to what sports can do, right? Mm-hmm. Which is the sort of team / community building aspect that is possible whenever you're not just focused on the fact that you like won or lost, in my opinion, right? Like, because it does, like, you're bringing. So let's just say your baseball team, right? All their parents, if they come to the game, right? Now they're sitting talking to people they might not otherwise engage with outside of that activity, right? So like it is, you do have this like community building aspect that is possible. Now it's not always happening because we're always like shouting at the umpire or like being ridiculous, or I don't know, but like because we take it too seriously,
Yeah.
So like that's the other thing that I get turned off of. Like you said earlier, I think both of you said it, like the seriousness that you go with it is like off-putting for me, because I just want to watch something interesting. Or I just want to enjoy what I'm watching, right? I don't care about all this stuff. Now, I mean, I get like when at home, like I get amped up about some things, when I'm super into it, but like it's just me and it not like taking out other people. Like if I was talking to somebody else, I'm not gonna like scream at them about, how angry I get at Team Sky for being ridiculous at the Tour de France, right? That's no one else is gonna even know what I'm talking about, number one. But like I don't but that's something I like to watch. It's a good example, because I didn't watch it this year because I had to work at summer school, so I didn't get a chance to watch the tour. It made me sad. But like I really like that. I don't know why. I started watching it one year, just like, oh, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna see what it's like. And then I've like watched it every year since, because I'm like super into Tour de France. Like it really, I'm just like the dynamic. You're talking about ever changing, crazy dynamic. It's like what? It's like so enthralling. It's like a bicycle race, but like half time nothing even happens. But like I'm still like, oh my gosh, are they in the right position? Are they going to do this stuff? Right? But like at the end of the day, it's just a bike race. Like
I
don't care. Like. It's supposed to be like a fun, enjoyable thing. And I know that everybody out there is making like more money than I'm ever going to see as a teacher, right? Like maybe not everybody, but a lot of people out there are doing that. And like, but it's still just interesting and fun. And I think too many people take sports too seriously. And it's like, it's the most important thing ever. And I just don't think that's the case,
No.
And I mean, that's just my opinion. Other people, like you said, there's lots of levels of investment in this kind of thing,
right?
And some people that like that's like, again, we've talked about this before too, but if your identity is playing a sport, right? Like that's your sole identity. Like you can't look at things the same way that I do. You know, because I'm like, okay, well, it's just kind of cool and fun to watch. But if you are if like you are playing a sport, I don't know, whatever sport you play, and that's like your thing, and you do that one thing only. First of all, side note, I don't think it's healthy to like so fully associate yourself with one thing. Like just mentally, I don't think that's a healthy place to be. Right, because then if all of a sudden you can't do that thing anymore,
yeah,
now we have a problem.
Right.
Well, we have some things to deal with. But like, you know, you so fully associate yourself with that identity that I think it really blocks everything else, because you have to focus on like, oh, I have to be like at X level of, you know, goodness or whatever, and like that sort of overtakes your psyche, and like just trying to always keep getting better and winning becomes important. And I think you lose a lot of focus on like the whole point in general. In my opinion, only.
Well,
like,
and I'm sitting here trying to think of like, because I think I don't know if that's just a common trope or is widely publicized of like a concern or a problem with sports, is that you tend to see that, or at least hear about that a lot of people who have their identity attached to a particular sport because that's what they were good at. And you don't see that when someone was good at like math in high school. They don't go throughout the rest of their life going like, but you might. But I mean,
part of that I think is the publicity behind sports events. If you know,
I was going to say,
if you had more publicity on other things, you might see a broader thing. But
to the extent to which that skill is lauded and held up,
that's true.
Amongst others, I think that's exactly a very good reason as to why your identity can get caught up in that. Because when it does get elevated, or at least proclaimed loudly as being a good thing to be enjoyed and watched, there is an obvious draw to make that part of who you are in the long run, right? And then if you don't have checks and balances in the place, that can definitely lead to that,
right? And like Aaron was kind of talking about, like, you know, he's talking about if you are, let's pretend you are from a small rural Oklahoma town, right? And you see your escape from this town as tied to sports, right? Then now you are like driven to like dive into this hole of like, now my identity is this thing because I must succeed to do this, right? Whereas statistically speaking, that's never going to happen, right? If you just look at like the pure numbers of people that make it into higher level sports, it's like small, right?
Exactly.
Which is, again, it's a testament to their ability. But again, I also have this side of me that goes like, if I'm watching a professional basketball game and, you know, I hear about these trade deals and stuff that's happening right now. You go, my kids play this game at recess, and you're making $35 million to play the same game.
Well, yeah.
Why? Like, it's ridiculous, right? Like, it's so blown out of proportion, in my opinion, right?
Well,
like, it's so dumb. Like, why? Why is it that important? Why have we placed such a high financial value on a game,
right?
You know,
well, but
like societally,
think of the economies that are driven by that one person, by those two people, right?
And I know it's like distraction based, and we all need like the escape of something, but like,
man, I'm even thinking about like just like paintings and the art world too. Of you go and you look at some of the impressionistics or whatever, and you go, really, like that was, okay, cool. I guess that's worth a couple million. Great.
Well, I mean, those are different because that's like worth, because it's the only one ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
True, but just like the art market as a whole, like the amount of value.
It's confusing too.
Right? Anyway, it doesn't make sense. Whatever.
Anyway,
but
but so like you said, there's a lot of things and it does stuff, but like ultimately, like I think it's unhealthy. Back to the point, like I think it's very unhealthy to so wrap yourself up in one identifying characteristic that it defines who you are as a person, right? I know that's my opinion, and because I try not to do that, like,
yeah,
I hate those like icebreaker games where they're like, describe yourself in like X words. I'm like, I literally can't do that. Like I pride myself on trying to be as diverse as possible. Like I don't want to like, you know, I don't define myself as like, oh, I am a teacher or I play an instrument, right?
Yeah.
That's part of who I am, but it's not like the overriding characteristic of my personality, you know? And I think it's really weird to do that. And so like if your defining characteristic is like, I am like, I have to be like an Australian rules football player. Like that's there's nothing else about you.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of not interesting, right? Like, oh, I'm a swimmer. That's it. That's all you do. You swim.
Well, and,
only.
Yeah.
Like, do you know nothing else? Like, well,
in part,
I mean, I understand that's what's needed for you to succeed, but also it makes you not interesting. Yeah. Like,
well, it is really tough because society. I think society has done a very, very, very bad job communicating and telling people and basically lying to people that there is a special dream destiny out there, the one thing for you that you must try and find to fulfill all of your dreams and desires, right? Like
that's true, yeah.
Like it's like find the one passion and find the one thing, and it's like, oh my gosh, like no, like like at the end of the day, no, you are so much more complex than that. But it is hard because you do have to fight that, because you do have to fight as you search for your identity. The world telling you find this other thing or find this thing, or what's your thing? What's your one thing?
Yeah. You don't need one thing.
You don't need one thing. And it's hard because that's more complicated. That's more complex. That's one reason why I really detest the state of politics. One of many reasons. But
well, I mean, yeah.
But people are so like, they put you in these big buckets and they go, you are either this or this, and if you're in the middle, that means you're nothing, right? They don't acknowledge that there's gray areas.
They don't acknowledge that there's other.
They don't
like things,
and and so I get so frustrated when it comes time to like pick somebody or some for a thing, and it's like, but they don't meet who they don't.
My qualification. Well, the problem with politics in general is that like the defining characteristics of those buckets are like two things. Right.
Exactly.
There's like two things that make you
one or the other, or
let's say five.
Sure.
Let's say five.
Let's be generous
for sake. Yeah. Like, if you just say the word conservative, right? There is a list of about 5 things that goes in that bucket.
Yeah.
Boom. That's it. That's the defining characteristic. Even if like we all know there is way more nuance to that.
Right.
But and there's lots of in the middle, and there's lots of nuance to this stuff. But like, nope. These and people like vote for you because they have an idea of what those 5 things are. And the interesting part is that idea is not the same for everybody.
Right.
Like if one person says conservative, they think of a list of 5 things. If somebody else says it, it's a different list of 5 things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But so they're sort of engaging in that nuance, but they're not publicly stating it.
Well, or more often than not, what it is it's this. It could, let's say it's the same 5. Let's say you miraculously find somebody who agrees to the same 5 definitional things, but of your 5, they only align with 2 of them, while the other person
or they might be in a different order of importance, or like
exactly right. So like it's all these weird hierarchies, and it is, again, just getting back to that, trying to define your identity and find that and where you place that. It again, this whole like what buckets you fall in, not allowing yourself to be defined by others, I think is that huge first step in taking that control away from those, from society, from the world, and going, no, you don't get to define me? Like again, that sounds very millennial, doesn't it? It sounds very like, nah, you don't.
Well, I mean, it is sort of a pushback about what you were talking about, because the fact that the idea of like, oh, you have to have that, like you're saying, that the one thing, that's becoming a very antiquated idea of like, oh, you're gonna graduate high school, go to college, and then have one job for 40 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's really not.
That's it.
How many things function any longer.
Yeah.
And allowing somebody to realize that you can grow and develop as a person and come up with new ideas and new interests and just continue growing always, and not just be like, yep, I am a electrical engineer forever.
Right.
Or like, I am going to be an accountant. And those fields are excellent and wonderful.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No. And maybe you do. Maybe you're like, I love it. That's great. I'm happy for you. But like, you can't pigeonhole everybody into that box of like, I'm going to be an accountant for 40 years and retire. You might be an accountant for like 10 years and be like,
oh,
yo, no. I want to open a flower shop.
Right.
I love gardening and flowers. Mm-hmm. And I want to do that.
And that's
like
great.
Old world, like when I quote old world, like pre-1980 says,
right.
No, don't ever do that.
Don't allow it. So
you must just stay an accountant forever.
I'm curious.
And sort of the new way of thinking is like, yeah, I'm just going to sell flowers, man. That's all I want to do.
That. So I'm curious for you two, interacting with the youths of the world. How do you see them struggling with this at that age? And how do you, if you have had to work through them in kind of this self-discovery process?
I think it because I work with 12-year-olds. Absolutely. That's like the whole problem that we had. Like at the beginning of the year, I basically tell them all, like my beginning of the year speech is something about like the 6th grade is going to be hard. Number one, because the 6th grade curriculum in school is the most difficult you have done so far. Right? Yeah. You're ready for it. You've made it here. It's going to be harder than what you had last year. The other reason 6th grade is going to be hard is because being 12 is hard. Right? It's a whole thing. That is basically when that happens. And so I think that an important thing to do is to, when a kid is talking to you about something that they're interested in, just shut up and listen to them. That's what you got to do, I think, because they have expressed interest in a thing, and you should just listen to that and encourage them to look into it. Because like we've talked about, like being on the basketball team is not for everyone. And sure, the kid that wants to be on the basketball team, you should be like, yeah, do it. And the kid that wants to take choir, you should be like, do it. You know what I mean? Your opinion and your interest is valuable. And I want to acknowledge that by not being like, oh, I don't like that thing. Doesn't matter what I like anymore. It's what you like. So I just need to listen to you. I need to express interest in something you're interested in. And I just need to encourage you to keep doing it. Because I think that's all right. Because in 6th grade, we're starting to change our interests. Right? Like we liked this before. And now maybe we don't like it so much. And our friends are going to be mean to us. They're going to call us names. It's going to be hard for us to pivot to something new, right? Like, I did play baseball, but really I just kind of want to be in art class. Right? And that can be a hard transition because your friends might not respect your choice. Because let's be honest, 12-year-olds are not respectful little humans. So like they need somebody to just be like, yeah, it's a cool idea. I like it. Do it.
Yeah.
So I think just listening to them is kind of the big first step. Just listen to what they had to say and go from there. Aaron.
So one thing I always said in any other, like, if I was like interviewing for a coaching position, they always ask the question like, oh, so what is, do you have a coaching philosophy or something? And one thing that I always say, and there's, other things you throw in there, but I always talk about, I don't want to be the reason a kid loses interest in a sport that they love, because a lot of kids face burnout because either their coaches push them too hard, or more importantly that parents push their kids too hard.
Yeah, like super intense
of wanting to hey, I was the athlete in high school. You need to be the athlete in high school now, and
transference is real.
Dreams, onto their kids. And so I always said to myself, like, I don't want to be the reason a kid loses interest in a sport that they love. And exactly what Brandon was talking about. Kids at that age, are trying to identify who the heck they are, and be like it. Am I going to be like this kid, or am I even going to like this? And so when kids tell me, Coach, I want to be like, I want to be like this, because I'm like, oh, cool. Well, why do you want to be like that? Oh, well, because my dad was. Like, well, is that what you get? Is that what your dad wants, or is that what you want? And so, providing that question to kids is more challenging than I anticipated, because a lot of times kids don't understand that this is why they're in their sport, because their dad or whoever wanted them to be. And so to me, that question is really big for kids to kind of be like, well, so why are you playing this? Why not, like, like, why are you playing this? More of a, hey, so why do you play? Why do you like the sport? Why do you like playing? Is it something that you can utilize to help get you more what is it called? More opportunities to grow? Is it something that you want to do because you just I had one kid, like, man, you're really good at this sport. Like, why do you like to play? Oh, no, I'm just bored. Like, oh, you're bored and you're playing a sport? Yeah, that's why. Like, oh, all right, you're honest. I like it. So there's a lot of reasons why kids play sports, and especially in a small town, you don't really have a lot of options of like either to get you out of the small town so you can experience life at a different level, or where was I going with this point? I don't know, but something to where like you can experience it for yourself. And like Brandon was saying, whenever kids say something, you just let them talk, and then then it's your job as a teacher to facilitate the best way that they can achieve their goals. And so,
yeah, well, and I've only had one experience with a student. Was one of my all-time favorite students. Her name was Fatima, and she, I was with her when in real time she realized that being a doctor, not the trajectory that she was going to be on for the rest of her life. And it was really hard. It was really hard because she was a junior in college, and it just said like, yeah, right. And we're in A&P, it was in human anatomy, and it just the wall shut in front of her eyes, and she realized, like, one, it was because she just suddenly, you talk about burnout, like she just suddenly had no more passion for it, and then she lost total interest in it, and all of these bricks, and like she realized that she was doing it for all these wrong reasons, and like the rest of the class left, and then we just sat, and like I sat at the table with her, and she just like cried for 20 minutes, and like was trying to figure out like was it okay for her to change her mind? And that was her big hang up was like, can I change my mind right now? Is that okay? Is that appropriate for me? And I realized that, like, not only does the world tell you there's a dream destiny thing, but also they demonize changing your mind, and nobody talks about changing their mind.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like like, because we typically, as you grow up, you're always looking at people older around you, like parents or grandparents, aunt and uncles, and they are like, most of the time they're already established, so they never change. So why would they talk about needing to change? Anytime they have a career change, like, so I think that just viewing,
it's like a negative, like they got fired or something.
Exactly.
Like that,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to place ourselves, and especially with the younger you are, like, it is really hard to see the trajectory that you're on is not the same trajectory that somebody older than you is on. Like, they've already gone through the hills and valleys and humps and bumps a lot of the times, and have a lot of that ironed out. Not necessarily all the time, right? Not really. But when she was talking to me, it just hit me like a ton of bricks that she'd never seen somebody change their mind in like a big life decision. She'd never seen it or had to experience that. And it was really like, that's what that center focus was about. It was like, you can't, like, this is, and you know, and she ended up, she was not going to be a doctor. She all of a sudden, like, I worked with her for a couple weeks and was like, you know, nursing is where I need to be, because it just, she was able to find a path from there that still fit a lot of her other passions. But it just, you know, that like, is this okay? Am I doing something wrong? Is something wrong with me being I changed my mind? And it got back to that whole, it gets back to that whole identity thing, right? Of like, if I claimed I am a doctor, I'm going to be a doctor, that's who I am. By saying no to that, I'm saying no to me. And that's bad, right? It's,
yeah. But no, you're just saying that you don't want to be like that version. Like you decided you didn't like that. And so you're going to, I mean, it is daunting because that means then you have to make a new version of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And you sort of have to come up with a new identity for you. But that's definitely plausible and a possible thing to do. So, but it's rather daunting because, like you said, people don't talk about doing that part.
Yeah.
They just talk about the, you know, I am this. They don't really talk about how they got there.
Yes.
Or like what to do if that doesn't work. You know? Like what do you do now? You know what I mean? And I feel like that's an important aspect, especially, you know, with lots of, there are certain things that it is more prevalent. But like,
yeah,
like what do you do when that day comes when you're like, even if you were that for a long time, right? Let's say you are a doctor. Eventually, someday, you're not going to be a doctor anymore.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh no. I have to be a something else. How do I be a something else? You know?
No, it's true. No, but you know, you look at like the trainings that you can take for jobs and stuff, and like this just came to me because I see a ton of them of like how to be a more effective manager, how to be the best manager.
7,000 emails a day about like online PD for better. I deleted like 6 today.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Like they are never going to have a class that's like, should you still be a manager? Right? Like no, there's no going to be a class saying
how to transition to your post managerial life. Like
exactly.
That's not.
No, that's not good because it's again, it's this binary: either you are or you aren't, and that's it, right? There's no gray area.
Yeah,
people, you don't transition through points of your life. What are you talking about? There's no, and you're like, oh my gosh, you don't. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, like you were talking about earlier, it does kind of seem like some people think that you were like born a manager. That's not how that works. That's not like
no. It's not. No. And again, not discounting the people who are like from the age of 5 were like, I'm going to be a vet, and they're a vet, and they're the happiest they've ever been in their whole life.
No, I mean that's cool. I was definitely not that kid. But like, I remember being like slightly traumatized in high school, you know, because they tell you that, right? Like the all the teachers are like, yeah, you got to find out what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Like,
what's your job?
What? Like, I'm 18 years old and I don't really do decision making real well. So like,
right.
What are you talking about for the rest of my life? Like, what? Like, that's a really sort of traumatic thing to thrust upon an 18-year-old who's going through like so much stuff, and like already everything around them is changing. Like their whole social structure is about to be destroyed. Yep. Right? Like a whole bunch of all that stuff is changing. And then somebody's like, yo, what's the one thing you're going to do for the rest of your existence? Like, oh no.
Right.
Right. So it's
yeah.
You know, I think it's more, I think it would be, and again, the system is set up to do that. But I think a more appropriate question is just sort of like, well, what do you want to do right now?
Yeah.
Right. Like,
yeah.
One, like, I remember a story of this guy that was like, he was like an accountant or something. But like in college, he was like a bartender. And, you know, he got his degree in like business and finance. And so he was, you know, an accountant. And he did that for like 2 years. He's like, I am really miserable. You know, I'm going to go back and be a bartender. And so he's a full-time bartender. And that is his job. And that's what he loves to do.
Well, there are certain jobs / careers that people, that I guess society as a whole finds unacceptable, right? Mm-hmm. Because they don't fit the traditional sense of what you should be doing at X age of your life. And like bartending is one of them. I watched an interview yesterday with Corey Wong. He's the guitarist for the band Wolfpack. If you've ever heard of them, they're like a jam bandy, like experimental, like funk. They're really awesome. You should check out Wolfpack. Anyway, he was talking about like, that's what he thought, right? He was like talking about the early stages of his life, kind of that early 20s part where he said kind of like, it was very clear to literally everyone around me that I needed to be a musician, but I couldn't see it. It's like, I was like, oh, I can do like computer drafting. Like I'm good at that. I need a real job, a quote, traditional real job. Mm-hmm. That's what I have to do. That's, you know, that's how the world works. I have to have this quote, real job. And he said it was really weird for a while because it was very apparent to everyone that I needed to be a musician. But I couldn't see it myself.
Yeah.
Right. Because I was so focused on this aspect of like, oh, I have to do this and this is what people do and I have to fit into this thing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, eventually I was like, he was talking about something. He talked about his realization. He was like, yo, this is wrong. Like I should be a musician. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But it was like later. It was delayed by who knows how. I don't remember how long because he was so focused on like the quote traditional correct thing path, you know. So yeah, it's there is also that stigma of like, well, that's not a real job. Like, why not? It's 2021, man. Mm-hmm. Why is that not a real job?
Why not? Well, and I don't know how canonical this is or isn't or whatever, but I remember hearing the story of mom when she went to college and she went to college. She was going to be a vet, and she said the first day she was there, she couldn't find her first class or like the first building it was supposed to be in, and she was like, "Well, I guess I'm not supposed to be a vet," right? And went on.
It does sort of sound like something she would say. I
didn't know that. That's
that
really
might
funny.
Be slightly exaggerated in the telling later, but that does sound about right. Like, I think I vaguely recall a similar story to that.
Right? Yes. And, you know, she went on, got a degree in education, right? But like, it was just, oh well, this isn't working, and I don't know that story always kind of stuck with me of like, again, this example of you don't hear very many times of when somebody changed their mind and saw that you thought, oh, it was okay on the other side, right? The person, it's not genuinely, just like sports, it's really not that big of a deal, right? Like, you're going to be fine.
I remember one of my students. He's a freshman, or was a freshman. By now he's a junior. And I remember talking about college. And granted, me being the biased person is like, well, you need college. There's junior college right up the road, and because I always talked about it's like, well, if you don't know if college is right for you, like if you feel that, like, because that's everyone's biggest thing. It's like, should I go to college? Is college a thing for me? It's like, the thing I always told them was like, look, go to JUCO, get all of your basics out of the way, see if college is something that's, I feel like it's one of, sounds like one of those, medical commercials, and you're like, oh, see if this is right for you. But I always told them, like, hey, look, there's, a junior college right up the road. Go and see if you even like it. Dip your toes in the water, see if you like it. And then if you don't like it, awesome. I mean, you got an associate's degree, you did 2 years, bing, bang, boom, you're done. But if you do like it, it now opens up more opportunities for you. And plus, it's really cheap. Like, you don't have to spend an arm and a leg, to go out and do something like that. So if you want to try it, cool, go for it. If not, no big deal. And the one thing I told this kid was like, dude, I changed my degree like 2 or 3 times. Like
7. It's probably 7.
It was probably 7. But I was like, I changed a lot. And he's like, can you do that? And I'm like, oh yeah. I went to school with a kid that was still going to school, and he was like 4 years older than me. He's like, yeah, I don't know what I want to do anymore. And so it's like, it takes longer, but you literally can change your degree if you want to, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's like, oh, I was always told that, like, I had to pick a degree and just go for it. And I was like, yeah, that's not true. You can literally go in there. But I told him, like, look, go to JUCO, get an associate's degree, try it out. If you like it, cool. If not a big deal. But at least just try to open up more opportunities for you. Because, he's like, well, my dad's an auto mechanic, and I'm going to be an auto mechanic. And I was like, dude, if that's what you want to do, dope, go for it. But if you just want to try something, it's not going to kill you. Go out there, literally apply for any scholarship, because they're bound to give you like 7. And then just, if you like it, cool, go for it. But if you don't, you got an associate's degree, and you can carry on about your way. And so that's what he was talking about doing. He's like, I'm going to go just get an associate's degree and see what happens. I'm like, that's cool. Atta boy. Give it a try. So
I love it.
True. That's possibly a separate conversation, but that idea that you have to go to college right now when you're 18, go.
It's
kind of like yeah, we could come back to that later at some point because we're going a little bit long. But
sports or not,
that is sports stuff. Anyway,
I like it. No, well, cool. No, I really appreciate that because I think that those two things are pretty intermixed together and turn a lot of people off from sports whenever they feel how invested or how serious people take it, or how it becomes part of their core identity. Like that's a turnoff for a lot of people. And
well, I think the wrap up would then be like people that, because I have known people that are like, they're good at sports, they're like really good, but they don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a hard time with that decision of like, I'm a, let's, whatever sport. we'll say basketball. I play basketball. I'm a basketball player. That's my identity, and I'm really good at it, but I want to do nursing.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they, they're willing to be like, yeah, I want to do that because I now have discovered a new passion in my life, and transitioning away from that is really difficult because there's a lot of pressure on them to be like, no, you got to play basketball. You got to like, but I don't want to play. Like, yeah, you're good, and I'm good, but I don't enjoy it. I want to do this. And again, that's where you gotta, you just gotta. It's okay to do that.
Yeah,
it's okay to explore new things. It can be scary. It's really scary, especially if it's like, especially when you're older. The older you get, the scarier it is. And I think that's why the traditional wisdom was don't do it. But it's much more viable now. And so it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to not play a sport anymore. It's okay to watch more than one sport. It's okay to do that, guys. You don't have to watch just one. You don't have to be like, I'm a baseball fan.
Breaking news.
Watch something else.
Yeah.
Watch field hockey. I don't care. Watch something else.
Get out of your comfort zone. Try something else.
Yeah.
Learn something else. Because again, one of the things you'll find is that sometimes it's important. Yes, it's important to know what you like, but more importantly, it's important to know what you don't like or who you are not. Right? Like it's that balance of like, who am I, but also who am I not? And this like casting your net broad, trying new things is all part of that process.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think I kind of align myself more with that. Well, here's what I'm not. Philosophy, right? I think I want that questionnaire at my stupid staff meeting on Monday. I'm like, describe who you aren't in 5 things. I got that in the bag. I can do that. But the describe who you are. Nope. I need more than that. I think last time I wrote indescribable. Boom. Take that.
Oh. No. Oh my gosh. And how true. Yes. And,
yep.
And with that, we'll
indeed
say good night. Love you guys.
Good night. Love you too.
Bye, guys. Love you too.